Welcome back to another edition of SacTown Movie Buffs. Once again, I'm Kierre, and this is Jason, and we are back with our second part of our top 10 films of 1997. So our first show, we did our top, basically number 10 through number 6, and this show will be our number 5 through number 1, and we'll do some honorable mentions at the end as well of some other films that we like that just missed the cuff. How you doing today, Jason?
I'm good. Business as usual.
Well, sounds good. Not too bad. Business as usual as well. Before we actually get started, I just was gonna quickly recap. My 10 through 6, and then maybe you can do your 10 through 6, and then we'll get into it with our top 5. So, So if you missed our first show, I would watch the first show, but if you missed it for whatever reason, this is your first time tuning in. So my number 10 for 97 was U-Turn. My number 9 was Starship Troopers. My number 8 was Cube. My number 7 was Romy and Michelle's High School Reunion. And my number 6 was Gridlocked. How about for you?
All good. My number 10 was Romy and Michelle's High School Reunion. Number 9 was Grosse Pointe Blank. Number 8 was The Ice Storm. Number 7 was The Game, and number 6 was Starship Troopers. So
awesome.
If you want to hear more about those particular movies, just watch part 1.
Exactly. Well, yeah, a lot of similarities there. We'll see how the top 5 goes for us. So see if there's still the same similarities.
Right.
But I'm sure there'll be some, but there'll be some differences as well. So of course, as always. It's always the case.
Yeah.
Well, with that said, let's get into it, man. Let's start with your number 5 for 1997.
Okay, number 5, I'm sure we're going to be in total agreement right off the bat because my number 5 is Titanic. I know this is one of your favorites anyway, but I think this is a great movie. It got a little bit of attention when it came out. People got a little bit tired of hearing about it. I get that. But I saw it. I was one of the people that saw it like opening day or weekend. I think I saw it opening day, like Friday. And I remember the theater was packed, but it hadn't become Titanic yet. It was just a new movie. I mean, there was a lot of hype around it, but it was just the new movie. And I loved it. It's an old-fashioned epic. It's a disaster movie where the disaster is it's pretty scary in a few places. Very claustrophobic. I'm claustrophobic. So there's a lot of claustrophobic, scary stuff with the ship and everything. The love story is good. Leonardo DiCaprio, Kate Winslet. Everybody knows this movie. I don't want to go into too much detail about it, but I was completely enthralled the first time and every time I've ever watched it since. I think it's a beautiful movie visually. It's a great disaster movie. It's a great movie. It's Titanic. I love it. All right.
Yeah. Spoiler alert, it crashes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's the first spoiler. We've had long discussions about this film. I was one of the people that, I saw it after you did. It might have been like your second or third time seeing it. But I still saw when the hype train was like in full steam. You know what I mean? Everybody was just smashing all kinds of box office records and that kind of stuff. So I saw it right at the height of that. And, for me, I just didn't care for it too much. I didn't care for the story that much. I didn't care for the characters that much. I thought they were all kind of a little annoying to me. And, I just didn't get wrapped up in the love story. I thought it was weak. And, I was one of those people like before everybody went in and analyzed the ending in the water kind of scene. I was already kind of thinking like, I don't know if that if somebody was just being selfish in that scene or what the situation was. I don't know. Yeah, it was. I don't know. For me, I just didn't. It didn't jive for me, and I just wasn't that interested in it overall. So
yeah, I mean, I can respect that because, like you said, I took you to it. I remember.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was I think it was my second viewing. I saw it at least 3 times in the theater. But I remember I took you to see it. I was like, you got to see this movie. I think we were sitting way up front, like in the second row. And the second time I was just blown away. And then I remember it was like 23 years ago now, but I remember after the movie, well, what'd you think? And you're like, and I was like, really?
Yeah, that was
really? This is like such an amazing movie. Yeah, that was before the backlash. I'll give you credit.
I wasn't one of those people that jumped on the bandwagon and said, "Oh, I don't, like this movie because everybody else is saying they didn't like it." I didn't really care for it from the get-go. So
I can respect that.
It wasn't the worst movie I've ever seen by any means, but I just didn't care for it.
Yeah. So. I can respect that. You're wrong, but I can respect that you weren't just on the bandwagon with the backlash that eventually came. So, what's your number 5?
Number 5 for me is going to be, if I can get it right, The Fifth Element.
Nice.
So I just watched this for the second time. Well, not for the second time. I just watched it yesterday. I just watched this again yesterday with my son. Just one of those movies. It's a futuristic movie. Basically, it's like a movie where it stars Bruce Willis and Mila Jovovich, Gary Oldman's in there as well as a bad guy. It's one of those films where it's a futuristic film, and basically, I guess the best way to describe it is there's pending doom that's coming to the world in the future, and you're going to need basically these elements from Earth in order to stop the pending doom. And there's basically a fifth element, so it's going to be like water, wind, air, and earth, I guess, is the 4 elements. And then the 5th element is going to be this perfect person that would help stop the pending doom for Earth. It's a comedy, it's an action film, it's a sci-fi film, it's futuristic. It's kind of a little hard to explain in that sense, because there's a lot of more that goes into it, but it's just a really fun film. Bruce Willis is always good and everything as an action star. There's funny monsters in there. Gary Oldman's really cool and creepy as a bad guy with his dome like thing that he has on his head and like his hair flopped over, and so he's always been a chameleon in terms of the characters he play, especially when he was younger. He used to do all kinds of different crazy roles back in those days. But it's a film that I really just always have enjoyed. If you had asked me back in '97, it might have been like top 3. It comes across maybe just a little bit cheesy these days. Rewatching it again, there are a lot of cheesiness elements to it that you could say, it's a little cheesy in parts, but I still really enjoy it. I still would give it, 5 stars, but a really fun film, good action film nonetheless, and definitely one that I recommend. And it's number 5 for me.
Yeah, I love the Fifth Element. It totally, I don't know. My memory of it is that it wasn't the movie I was expecting based on the trailers. Because maybe it's just my memory, but I remember the trailers making it look pretty conventional, futuristic action movie or whatever. I wasn't surprised. I was surprised. I remember being so surprised by how weird it was and how funny and goofy it was. Yeah. And I really liked that. I liked that it wasn't just another, wannabe Star Wars or something like that, So yeah, I love that movie. It's one of those that like just barely missed my top 10. I truly love it. I'd still give it 5 stars, but it hurt to cut out of the top 10, but I just couldn't in there. So it's in the runner-ups for sure. I love that movie. Love it. Yeah.
Cool stuff.
Good choice.
Well, thank you. Number 4.
Number 4. This is a little bit of a lesser-known movie. I don't know if you've ever seen this one. My number 4 is called The Sweet Hereafter.
I've heard of it.
Okay.
I don't remember if I've seen that one or not. I'm honestly probably not. I do remember it. I do remember it may have even gotten nominated for some Oscars, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That's the only reason why I really remember it. So
I'm pretty sure it did. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But it's a masterpiece. I'm not gonna say anything less than it's a masterpiece. It's a kind of a hard movie to describe. If anybody who's familiar with Adam Egoyan's films, a lot of them are not that great, but this is the one movie where all of everything he does well comes together. He tells movies like his movies are like puzzles. So it's like you get a piece here, a piece there, and you kind of have to put it together yourself. And I know a lot of filmmakers tell movies out of chronology, like Tarantino, he tells stories out of order. It's more than that in this case. It's like he doesn't even give you all the pieces really, which I mean might sound like a bad thing maybe, but it's more just like, I don't know. It's hard to describe, and a lot of his movies are not good, actually. Like I said, but this one is the masterpiece. It's the central idea is that it takes place in this small town in the middle of nowhere, where a bus crash has killed most of the children in the town. So it's a real happy movie, as you can tell. But that, if you know, the movie that you might be coming up with in your head is like a really just a wrenching drama that's like really sad, and it is really sad, but it's also a mystery, and that's what I like about it. That's because the tagline is really perfect for this. It says, "There is no such thing as the simple truth," and that's what it's about. Because it comes down to what happened on the bus, you know, what happened to the people after, what happened before the bus crash, and it kind of all blends together in this really mysterious, like, I don't know. It's a hard movie to describe, but I highly, highly recommend it. It's a beautiful movie. It's Sarah Polley is in it. She's one of my favorite actresses. She doesn't really show up much these days, but Ian Holm is really great in it. It's an excellent movie. It's not just a depressing drama that you might think going by that synopsis, but it's actually a really powerful mystery that you have to kind of make up your own mind about. And I like those kind of movies that are kind of enigmatic that way. So my number 4 is The Sweet Hereafter.
Good stuff. Yeah. I can't comment on it because I haven't seen it, but I definitely heard about it. I remember during the Oscar season hearing about it, or maybe you mentioned it before. Just one of the ones I just never got around to for whatever reason. So, but good stuff. Yeah, maybe one I'll check out at some point in the near future. Who knows? So, so my number 4 is so my number 4 is going to be interesting for 2 reasons. The first being because I don't own it, and the second being is because my memory is a little fuzzy on it. So because I haven't seen it like almost like 15 years, so I can't pinpoint exactly what I loved about that movie. I just remember liking it a lot. But it's going to be as good as it gets. So I haven't seen it in many, many years. So I do apologize that I can't go through the whole what it's all about, because I just, for some reason, my mind drew a blank on it, and I wanted to rewatch it before we did this show. But it just, for some reason, I just drew a blank on it. But it's as good as it gets. So, it's not as good as it gets because it's number 4, but I do remember enjoying it quite a bit. I just haven't seen it in like 15 years. So I can't pinpoint exactly the ins and outs of it, other than it being a comedy and Jack Nicholson and and a couple other big stars in there. I just can't remember exactly what all happens in the movie without giving away too much or describing what I liked, other than it's a really good, funny film that stars Jack Nicholson.
Yeah. So what you're saying is your memory is not as good as it gets.
No, definitely not. Definitely not.
Yeah.
So, I do remember enjoying it quite a bit. I just, for some reason, I just drew a blank on it I was going to watch it before we did the show. And then I was like, oh crap, I don't own it. And then I couldn't find it for free anywhere to watch real quick. And I just didn't have the time. I ran out of time to watch it. So,
right. Yeah.
But not typically what I would do for this show, but unfortunately I just don't have a lot of other things to say other than check it out. It's really good and you're going to love it. So,
yeah. It's all right. It's all right. I also haven't seen it in a long time. It's not in my top 10. It's not in my runner-ups. I remember thinking it was a good movie, pretty good, but I remember having issues with it back then, and I have a feeling that I would have the same issues with it now, probably. But again, I haven't seen it in 20 years, probably.
Yeah,
so
probably same for me. And but I remember really, really loving it and really enjoying it. But I guess not enough to own. With me, I don't own all my films like you do. You own your top 10 plus the other 35 runner-ups. So, unfortunately, I don't have that same passion to own every single film that I like that year. So I normally just relegate to. Well, for me, I normally just go for films that, like I said, I feel like I'm going to rewatch many times over again. And unfortunately, that just wasn't a film that I feel like I would always pull out just for no reason at all. Usually it's going to be like an action movie or a horror movie, occasionally some dramas or something like that. But, and comedies as well. And this was a comedy, but it's just not one it wasn't the kind of comedy that I would watch like Kingpin or something like that. So,
Well, I definitely don't have the passion to own As Good as It Gets. I can tell you that.
Well, cool stuff. Well, then, with that said, we'll move right along to number 3 then. So,
okay, all right. My number 3 for 1997 is L.A. Confidential. So cool. This is a great, great movie. One of my favorites. Another one that I have a vivid memory of seeing in the theater and just being blown away by it. It's a 1940s set film noir in Hollywood. I love all those things. I love movies set in Hollywood. I love film noir. I love that period. It's got a great cast. Kevin Spacey, Guy Pearce, Russell Crowe, Kim Basinger. I could go on and on, but like, it's one of those movies where just everything is perfect about it. I have no qualms about L.A. Confidential. I don't want to say too much about the plot because it's a mystery, but it's just a great movie. It's the movie that introduced Russell Crowe and Guy Pearce to me. I didn't know who they were beforehand, but and kind of a funny story. Like, I didn't know who they were, and then when this came out on VHS, I was watching. Before DVDs and Blu-rays, they would sometimes put special features at the end of the VHS tape. So I was watching like a making of documentary after the movie, and I remember being so surprised that Guy Pearce and Russell Crowe had Australian accents. Like, they to me in this movie they were so American. You know what I mean? Like, especially Guy Pearce, that square-jawed American, and like Russell Crowe seems so American, and why do I know these American actors? And then they started speaking with accents. I'm like, what is happening? Because they were so good at dropping it. I guess I don't know. It just really surprised me back then. But of course, they're great actors, and they went on to other things. But L.A. Confidential is, I think, a truly great movie. It's been a while since I watched it, but I know that when I watch it again, it's going to blow me away all over again. So yeah, and that's my number 3.
Cool. Yeah. No, I love L.A. Confidential. It's got, it's a great story. Like I said, it's a great, film noir, dealing with like crooked cops. It's got a lot of action in it. Actually. I mean, the ending, there's a, not a spoiler, but there's a giant shootout that happens at, towards the end. That's just,
that I was not expecting. I remember being like, "Oh,
it just kind of comes out of nowhere." But it is just a gritty detective murder mystery type film, if you will. Definitely one of my favorite movies, not only of '97 but of all time. It's my top 25 films of all time. So it's just a really, really great film. Obviously, with that said, it's on my list, just a little ways up, of course.
Okay, so. Yeah, I figured it would be. Yeah.
But no, I just love this film. I watch it all the time. It's one that I watched it probably a few months ago. But yeah, I love. It's one of those films where it's like it's a buddy cop film, but it's weird because it's like a buddy cop film. You know what I mean? It's like there's different groups of buddy cops. You know what I mean? They kind of, because, there's a lot of characters that quite don't get along, and they become friends, or they or for the better good, they have to kind of like work together. But it's got, it's just got everything in it. I mean, it's got, it's got a, little bit of humor, but it's got a lot of action. It's got great drama, great story. It's just a really fun film all the way around. They're definitely one that if you haven't seen L.A. Confidential, I highly, highly recommend you check it out. So,
right.
Cool. Good stuff.
All right.
Number 3 for me. I also don't own, but I got a better memory on this one. So number 3 for me is actually going to be Breakdown.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I always just love Breakdown. It's basically about a couple that literally breaks down, and their car breaks down, or supposedly breaks down, and they get offered some help, and the wife basically gets offered to go with the guy in order to go get help to get their car back on the road, and she ends up being kidnapped basically, and so basically the rest of the movie is the husband basically looking and trying to find his wife and find out what happened to her, why she was kidnapped, and that sort of stuff. So it's a really just kind of a really gritty drama, if you will. But just a really great story. It's got some action in it, especially towards the end. It's a kind of ransom story, almost a bag of money movie in a way. So, because, it's a ransom film. But just a really, really good story. One that I, have always enjoyed and loved. And I used to own it. I don't have it now for some reason on DVD, but definitely one that I'll try to rebuy. I was going to buy it on Blu-ray, but I couldn't find the Blu-ray version of it. So that's the only reason why I didn't buy it again yet. So.
Yeah, Breakdown's amazing. I love that movie so much. It's one of those, another one, kind of like The Fifth Element. Just it pains me, but it couldn't quite squeeze into the top 10. I really tried, but it's a great movie. And actually, it's funny that you bring that up because it's one of those movies, kind of like it's on. I think about it with Strange Days all the time because that movie, Strange Days and Breakdown, neither one have ever been released on Blu-ray in this country. Mm-hmm. I don't know why. The most off the beaten path movies get released on Blu-ray. I don't know what happens, but Strange Days at least has gotten released on Blu-ray in other regions. Breakdown's never been released on Blu-ray anywhere, period, ever. I don't understand. I don't know why. And the worst, also like Strange Days, the DVD, if you still happen to have the DVD or hanging around like I do, it's a non-anamorphic DVD, which means if you watch a high-def TV, it doesn't expand to the whole picture. So, but I did notice that it's on Amazon Prime. So I need to, and I kind of avoid watching it because I don't want to watch a little box in the middle of my big TV. So I should probably watch it on, it's probably in high def on Amazon Prime, I guess. But it's one of those movies like Strange Days that, it was a Hollywood major studio release that for whatever reason has never been released on Blu-ray in this country or even a quality DVD. So it must be a legal issue or something. I don't know.
I have no clue, and it was, it wasn't like a giant hit or anything like that, but it didn't like just completely tank from my recollection at the box office. You know what I mean?
No, and even movies that do completely tank still get a decent release at some point. Yeah. So there has to be something up.
Yeah, so that's really the only reason why I don't own it is because I can't find it on Blu-ray, and that's one that I really would want on Blu-ray, and so it's like one of those ones where I'm just going to probably wait until it's on Blu-ray, because like I said, I had it on DVD back in the 90s, but for some reason I lost it or whatever, and was going to rebuy it and wanted to upgrade to the Blu-ray film, because I like to have at least all my 4-star films on Blu-ray if I can, but or 5-star films, whatever you want to call it, but I just wasn't able to find that, so I haven't bought that one.
Yeah, it's because it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. But yeah, it's a perfect thriller in my opinion, and it's one of Kurt Russell's best performances.
Oh, I forgot to mention Russell starred. Sorry, I didn't even.
Yeah, it's like the quintessential Kurt Russell character, and JT Walsh also, I think, is really great as the bad guy.
Yeah, for sure.
It's, he's one of those great character actors who unfortunately passed away not too long after this movie came out, but he's always good in everything, and he just makes your skin crawl. He makes you like him at first, but know that something's weird about him, and then like later on, he's just like, "Oh God, this guy's so evil." Yeah. So it's a great movie.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. Number 2 already.
Okay, number 2. I'm sure this one is further up on your list too. My number 2 is Jackie Brown. So, Quentin Tarantino, one of his best movies. Honestly, he's one of the few filmmakers that I give every one of his films a perfect rating. But this is probably in the top half. Well, it's definitely in the top half for me.
Yeah.
It's a Tarantino movie.
What more to say?
Yeah, I know. We've already talked about it in the Bag of Money episode. But it's just an awesome Tarantino movie. Yeah. That's another reason why I was so glad to see him. As much as I like Django and Hateful Eight and all that stuff, I was really glad to see him get back to like this century. You know what I mean? Yeah. I like seeing I like him working in like the 60s and 70s kind of setting.
Yeah, he did a lot of period pieces, in between there, with that and like you said, the Hateful Eight and some of the other films that he did.
Django and Inglourious Bastards. Although I love Inglourious Bastards.
Yeah, it was nice to see, that one. For me, and I'm going to just get right into it because it's also my number 2 as well.
Nice.
So I figured that would just save us a step right there. You already know, Tarantino is my favorite director of all time. And, I absolutely just love all of his films. They're all amazing, and I enjoy everything that he does, and his style, and the action, and the dialogue is always so great. It's always witty. It's always funny. And this one's no different. The thing I liked about this one, or initially didn't like about this one, is that this was his third film coming off doing. He had done obviously Pulp Fiction, and then before that he had done Reservoir Dogs, where he was doing all of like the editing time shift kind of stuff in those films, and this was more of like just a quintessential beginning to end, straight through film that didn't have a whole lot of action in it, compared to those other two films. For the most part, it was just more of a typical good story, dialogue, and there is some action in it, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't as gory and bloody and that sort of stuff as, the previous films that he had done. So I remember when I first saw this film, I was kind of thrown off a little bit by it, and I actually didn't love it initially.
Me neither.
Then when I first saw it for the first time, I was like, I don't know, man. This is different, I don't
know about this Tarantino guy after all.
Yeah. And he wasn't probably my favorite director at that time. What I mean? He was I just really liked his stuff. You know what I mean? At least the first two films. And, I thought that this film was going to be kind of more of a, it's like, oh, he's going to be another one of those guys where he makes like two really good films. And then, poof, he's starting to kind of go downhill a little bit, you know what I mean, or something of that nature. He rode the wave for those two films, and now he's doing this, you know what I mean, like, why? But it's like one of those films that you really have to watch, I think, at least two times or maybe even a third time for some people to really appreciate it, you know what I mean, because it's got a really, really good story. Like you said, it's a bag of money film. And just like one of those ones that I get something, a little nugget out of it, almost every time that I watch it, or just there's something else that I notice about it, and I just really enjoy it. It's got a great cast, obviously, just a really good story, and like I said, just he's one of my favorite directors, and if you haven't seen Jackie Brown, I highly recommend you go check that one out because it is just amazing. So.
Yeah, and I felt the same way you did at first. I remember I went with my brother, I think it came out on Christmas Day, if I remember right. And I think me and my brother went the day after Christmas. And we were both, that first time, we were both like, I remember going to the food court at the mall after the movie, and we were talking about it, and then we were both just kind of like, yeah, it was good. It was good. But we were both just kind of like underwhelmed, I guess, because we were expecting that kind of, constant adrenaline rush of Pulp Fiction or something. And it's not that kind of movie. It's a more, I still say it's his most like mature movie, about like it's in
regards to the very little action, mostly story, and because it's action
about adults, it's about 40 to 50 year olds for the most part,
and his action, and I love it. This isn't a knock at all. It can be at times a little cartoonish in a way, you know what I mean? Like just overly glorified. And this didn't really have that, you know what I mean? And so that's why it is probably his most mature film. And it's my third favorite Tarantino, and yours as well, I think, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I think we agree like on our top four.
Top four are the same, yeah. And then after that it goes
a little haywire, but but no, definitely. But it's like one of those things where, you're comparing great films. They're all great, however you stack them up in order, they're all great, you know what I mean? So it's like, I always use the basketball analogy. You can have your Jordan, your LeBron, your Kobe Bryants, you know what I mean? It doesn't matter which one you like the best. They're all good. You know what I mean? That's just Tarantino. They're good. They're all good films.
Yeah. Cool.
All right. Moving right on, man. Number one already.
All right. Number one, 1997, no contest, easy in my top 10 movies of all time. I'm sure you feel the same way. Is Boogie Nights. Yeah. Boogie Nights. One of my favorite movies of all time. And I knew it right off the bat. I remember seeing it in the theater, and it's one of those cases where the very first time I saw it, I knew it was one of my favorite movies ever. It was easy. It's Paul Thomas Anderson. This was, I think, his second movie at the time, so he was still kind of hot off the plate there. But I think it's a masterpiece. It is set in the 70s. It's about the pornography industry. So obviously it's not for everybody. It's definitely a hard R, no pun intended. But it stars Mark Wahlberg as a young kid who becomes like a kind of based on the John Holmes story, kind of a porn superstar. And Burt Reynolds is in it as the director. It's such a great cast. Julianne Moore, Philip Seymour Hoffman, John C. Reilly, William H. Macy, Heather Graham, Don Cheadle, just all down the line. And a lot of those people were not as well known before the film. And this was kind of their launching pad. I remember Philip Seymour Hoffman, for instance, was not like, he wasn't as well known as he became after this movie. But yeah, it's pretty much, this movie is like the complete package to me. It's funny. It's as a drama, it's powerful. The cinematography is great. The soundtrack is amazing. All these great 70s hits. It's just a great movie. One of my all-time favorites. So, and number one, Boogie Nights.
Cool stuff. Well, we've had many conversations over the years about this. This was a film that you showed me, actually. I believe. Yeah, you thought this was going to be a film that I loved because you had seen it and you had loved it so much. And I saw it and I did not like it. I just didn't care for it. It's been probably at least 15, 20 years, close to it. But, since I've actually seen this film. So, my memory's fuzzy is exactly why I didn't like it. I just didn't care for the story as much. It had a great cast. I'll give you that. I mean, there were definitely elements to it that you could say you can enjoy, but I don't know. It was just, for me, substance wise, it just didn't jive with me for whatever reason. I just personally just didn't care for it. And there's always those movies where for whatever reason, we just don't like. And that one just didn't gravitate towards me, and I'm not a prude or anything like that. I don't have anything against the pornography industry. I've seen tons of films that delve in those categories not pornography films, but tons of films that delve into that type of, realm, if you will. But this one, I just, I don't know, for some reason, I just didn't care for it too much. Just didn't, just didn't do anything for me. So
yeah, I don't get it, man. I don't get it. This one, like, I get it why you don't like Titanic. I get why you don't like a lot of movies that you don't like that I do. But this has got sex, it's got drugs, it's got violence, it's got guns, it's got tense, suspenseful, like drug dealing shootouts. And
who knows? Maybe I'll watch it again one day and I'll give it 5 stars like you do.
Yeah, it's got great music. It's got like all these like Scorsese influenced like camera moves, and it's a perfect movie, man. You should watch it again.
Maybe
watch it again. Yeah,
maybe. Probably not, but maybe.
Yeah, well, that's my number one.
There definitely have to be something to sweeten the pot for me to want to watch that again, for sure. So,
okay,
I would definitely have to make you rewatch a film.
Name your price.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not. I don't know. But that's my
$1 million, and you watch Bad Boys 2 again.
I'll do one of those things, and it's not $1 million.
Cool.
Although I would be getting the bum end of that deal, I can tell you that.
Whatever. Well, moving on to my number one. We've already covered it already, and you probably already know what it is since I haven't mentioned it already, and it's actually going to be LA Confidential. So we've already talked about that one. So, like I said, I've already went into, it's just a great action film, great film noir. The story's great. It's set in Los Angeles back in the 40s. And, it's just everybody in there is just so freaking good, man. Like the acting is just so good. All the characters are really good. And it just has almost everything that you could want, sex, violence, just a great story. There's just so many great elements to that film. And like I said, that's why it's in one of my top 25 films of all time. Great film, and like I said, I just love it. And I try to watch it, on average, probably once a year I watch it. It's a little long, so you'd have to know that going into it. But it's just, the story just bursts by so quickly that I think no matter who you are, you're going to enjoy it. So
right. Yeah, it's great. I'm a little surprised. I thought Jackie Brown would be your number one, but I know that was probably tough for you to split those up.
Yeah, this was the one year where a Tarantino film, I think, wasn't my number one film for that year. I think that might be one of the only film years. I don't know. I have to look at some of the other years. There might have been other years. I don't know. Whatever year that Death Proof came out, that might have been another year. I'm not for sure. So, but
I just thought of something I wanted to say. We talked about U-Turn last time. We talked about LA Confidential this time. I want to see if you remember a little moment back in 1997 when me and you were going to go to a movie. We wanted to go to a movie, and I said, like, man, you got to see this movie U-Turn, and you got to see this movie LA Confidential, and they were both in the theater at the same time. I was like, man, such a good choice. You're going to love both of these movies. And you're like, nope, I want to go see The Peacemaker. So we had the option of seeing U-Turn or LA Confidential in theaters at the same time. And you turned those down, and we went to see The Peacemaker, which nobody remembers, with George Clooney and Nicole Kidman. I don't remember a thing about it.
It's in my honorable mentions, man. It's in my honorable mentions.
Liar. I remember I even left at one point to watch some of U-Turn going on across the hall and thinking, man, we should be watching this movie. So it was your fault that you didn't see those until they were on VHS. But you've seen The Peacemaker on the big screen. So
yes, I did. It happened. It happened. It was the same thing with Wild Wild West, whatever movie we were going to see, and I chose Wild Wild West instead. Yeah. So
and the moral is listen to Jason.
That's not the moral at all. Well, with that said, we'll run through the honorable mentions real quick. So I'm just going to run through mine real quick, and then you can go through your 800 of them that you have. I only have 5. I try to keep it to 5. Jason always can't narrow it down, so he's got like 200. And I'm not going to go into too much specifics about it. But number 5, and these are, like I said, they're not necessarily in order. I just go through the list. You can take it as you will. Number 5 for me is going to be 4 Little Girls, which is a true story about the bombing that killed 4 little girls, 4 black girls back in the civil rights era. Really great film, definitely one you have to check out. I wouldn't say a fun film by any means, but definitely one that I urge everybody to see. Next up would be Scream 2. I enjoyed all the Scream films for the most part, better or worse. None of them I think will make my top 10 for the years that they came out, but I enjoy all of them. They're all a little formatic to me, and this one kind of felt the same. They all kind of follow like that same kind of pattern a little bit, in my opinion. But they are where they are. You know what I mean? I still enjoy them. 3 for me is Men in Black. Everybody knows Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones. They've had several sequels. The last one, neither one of them were in, which was horrible. But I always enjoy just a fun, futuristic, not futuristic, but fun alien, film or whatever. I always enjoy the Men in Black films for the most part. Number 2 for me is Nothing to Lose. Martin Lawrence and Tim Robbins. Basically, they're I don't know. It's kind of hard to explain. They end up. Martin Lawrence tries to rob Tim Robbins, and he basically drives off with them, and they go running off together and do crimes and stuff like that. It's hard to explain. It's a funny film. If you get a chance, definitely one to check out. Not describing it the best, but it's definitely a very fun film and one that I enjoy. And then number 1 for me, for honorable mentions, anyways, is Face Off with John Travolta and Nicolas Cage, and I like that film, and I'll go into that one just real briefly. The reason why I like that one so much is just because it's one of the rare films where you have 2 guys that Nicolas Cage is the bad guy, he's the bad guy with the terrorist or whatever, and then John Travolta is the good guy cop or whatever that's after him, and something happens and they end up kind of basically switching places to where now, Nicolas Cage is the good guy and John Travolta is the bad guy. You know what I mean? And it's a unique film in that sense, because there's very few films where I could say that the characters actually switch that way. So I kind of just enjoy that. I watched it recently and still enjoy it. It definitely has its flaws here and there, but overall just a really good action film and a really unique concept, I thought, at the very least. So those are my honorable mentions. So
cool. I've just got a few honorable mentions here. I'm going to go through real fast alphabetically because I didn't want to bother ranking them, but just show you what a good year 1997 was, like all these years. Anaconda, super fun movie. Anybody who says they don't like it because it's cheesy is missing the point. That is the point.
Yes.
Breakdown, my old crappy non-anamorphic DVD. I'll have to watch it on Amazon Prime where it probably fills up the screen. Perfect thriller. Chasing Amy, I'm not a huge Kevin Smith fan, but I'm not a Kevin Smith hater either. This is probably my favorite Kevin Smith movie, though, by a long way. Contact. I love this movie. One of my favorite science fiction space movies. Cube. We talked about it last time because it was in your top 10. Excellent sci-fi movie. Event Horizon. It's a rare horror movie that is set in space. It's kind of like Hellraiser in space. So I love this movie. Face Off. I was kind of surprised this didn't make it into my top 10, but it just shows you how many good movies there were that year. And yeah, you're right. John Travolta is so good at playing Nicolas Cage, and Nicolas Cage is so good at playing John Travolta. And it's before Nicolas Cage became like, whatever Nicolas Cage is now. The Fifth Element. Excellent movie. Just barely missed my top 10. Wow, this is a good year for sci-fi, actually, because my next one is Gattaca. I really like Gattaca. Perfect example of, like, intellectual science fiction. Not much action, but there is some action. It's a good movie. Gridlock, we talked about before. Easily Tupac Shakur's best performance. Excellent movie. Lost Highway from Kierre, favorite filmmaker, David Lynch. Men in Black, which I was actually surprised was not in your top 10. But it's really good. Scream 2, love it. Like you said, I think the series went a little bit downhill afterwards. But I like all four of them, to be honest. But Scream 2 is easily the best sequel. The Spanish Prisoner. A lot of people might not know about this movie, but it's a good David Mamet puzzle mystery kind of movie. And lastly, alphabetically anyway, U-Turn, which I just watched the other day for the first time in probably 10 years, and I like it, I think, even more than I liked it before. It's just a great, awesome movie. Total blast. Yeah.
Cool stuff.
And I forgot, I'm glad you brought up 4 Little Girls. I do own 4 Little Girls, and it would definitely be in the runner-ups, but I forgot to bring it in here. And one that I don't own, which is Eve's Bayou, which is an excellent movie.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, great runner-ups. A lot of them were in my top 10. A lot of them would, if I expanded my runner-ups to 100, they would be in there as well, like you did. And some of them, of course, I didn't like at all. We already know. I wasn't a fan of Event Horizon or Lost Highway. So, but we'll save that for another discussion. Yeah. But no, great list. I enjoyed. This was fun. Huh?
I know it's a great list.
Yeah, I mean, it's not as good as mine, but it was still, it's like, yours is like an A-, mine's like an A+.
Yeah. If you swap those, then maybe, yeah.
But no, great year. It was a fun year. Like I said, I think I like 95 and 96 a little bit better, but it was still a really good year. There's a lot of films that I really enjoyed. And I enjoy films every year, of course, but there's just some years that I gravitate more towards. But definitely, a lot of good films in that year, and and can't wait to see what 98 is going to bring for us whenever we get around to that. But yeah, this was awesome once again. I'm enjoying doing this series in between our actual newer movie reviews. It's always fun just to it's kind of walk down memory lane. It also reminds me of some movies sometimes that I need to see again. Like I still haven't watched U-Turn. I just bought it on DVD recently. And I still haven't got a chance to rewatch that yet. And then I did want to see The Spanish Prisoner again one more time because I haven't seen that in years. I remember liking it, but I don't remember that much about it other than it was like one of those films that has like twists and turns. And I always like those kind of films as well. So I kind of want to see that again. So, maybe that's one I'll catch in the next few days also. So
yeah.
Cool stuff. Anything you wanted to add before we go, man?
No, just as fun as always. Yeah.
Well, awesome.
Movies are great.
They are. Movies are great. Movies are life. And, we're that's what we do.
We're alive.
Well, yes. Well, we will continue with another discussion. Once again, as always, please continue to watch and support our show. If you want to continue watching our show, then just subscribe to our channel. There's a bell notification as well. It'll give you an update of whenever we're producing a new show. So if you hit that bell, that'll let you know exactly when a new show just got uploaded, and you'll know that to go ahead and watch it. So try that also, and we'll be back again real soon with a new show for you all. Thanks so much. Have a great day.
Thanks.